We are going to, now this is a massively interactive event. You've got to take part, but we've also got students at Honiton Community College in Devon and Parklands High School in Lancashire who are tuned into this.
And we're going to be... There's like 100 more schools?
And there are other schools just watching. So it's up to us to keep this really interesting and interactive. So first of all, can you all wave and say hi? I don't think they can see you, but we're going to wave and say hi to them.
They're waving back.
Right. And they're waving back. Now, quiet, quiet. I'm going to put my best teacher's voice on to say quiet, because first of all, here at Arc Elvin, we're going to get some fabulous questions from you to kick things off. And I've got a few names of students here who've got questions. I'm told is Abdi Musa here? Abdi?
Here.
And there's a mic coming towards you. So Abdi's got a question.
Who or what influenced you to make this website?
Who or what influenced me? Well, there were a few things. So I would say one of the most important things is that there was a trend in software called open source software, where programmers were coming together and collaborating. Most of the software that really runs the internet, so GNU Linux, Apache Perl, MySQL, PHP, all these kinds of amazing software packages are mostly written by volunteers collaborating online. And I realized that that form of collaboration, which was growing in the late 90s, had implications beyond just software, that we could get together, get groups of people together to work together collaboratively using free licensing, so everybody's just sharing everything for free. And that was the idea for the encyclopedia and later for Wikia. And I actually think there's still room for growth there. One of the things I'm really excited about is the future of animation and communities coming together to build animated films, and we're just starting to see that happen today.
Anyone make animated films in here? Yeah, I'm sure that some of you do. Lots of creative work going on here.
Yeah, there's some really cool stuff.
I'm going to pick out Natasha Pal. Natasha Pal? Yeah, there's Natasha standing up at the back, and there's a mic winging its way towards you. Hi, Natasha.
What is your vision for Wikipedia in 5 years' time?
So if people didn't hear, what is your vision for Wikipedia in 5 years' time?
Yeah, I think the most important thing about Wikipedia in 5 years' time, there's basically two elements of it. So one, the editing interface. Today, how many people in this room have edited Wikipedia? Yeah?
Oh, interesting.
For good purposes, I hope. So the editing interface, when you click edit today, you get wiki markup language, and it can be a bit intimidating, and it's unnecessarily complicated. So we're moving to a new visual editor, which is under development now, to make it so that when you click edit, the experience you get is much more like a normal word processing environment. And we hope that that will allow more people to contribute. What I always say is there are geeks who aren't computer geeks. So you want people who are very passionate about some subject to be able to contribute what they know without having to learn wiki markup language. So that's a big change.
What do you write about on Wikipedia? What do you?
Oh, I'm not an expert on anything.
Right.
I try to contribute just in small ways here and there on various topics. One of the things that we know at Wikipedia is that we're very weak. We have about an 85% male community.
Right.
And this leads to certain kinds of bias in the content. Not necessarily that the articles themselves are biased, but more bias in what we cover. And so there was an academic study showing that our coverage of female authors is much worse. Award-winning female novelists, for example, is not nearly as good as male novelists, because it does turn out that the reading audience for certain female authors is mostly female and so forth. And so our community imbalance leads to an imbalance of Wikipedia. So I decided I wanted to do something about that in some small way. So I have a button in my browser. When I click, I get a random entry of a British female novelist. I get a different one every day. And I try to see if there's any little thing I can add. Just that kind of thing. But then the other thing, talking about the 5 years, the other big thing is the growth of Wikipedia in all the languages of the developing world. That's a huge thing that's going on. It's mostly invisible to people who don't speak those languages, but you can see it. And I understand in this school there's a lot of people who English is a second language. If you go to whatever your mother tongue is, be it Arabic, or I'm just trying to guess for the crowd, what are some languages? I heard Arabic. Anyway, there's quite a few mother tongues. And if you go to those languages, you'll find that Wikipedia version to be smaller. Arabic's actually quite big. is doing quite well, but always needs more contributors. And so that kind of growth, that's really important to us.
I want to get more questions in. Ryan Patel. Is Ryan Patel around? Put your hand up if you're called Ryan Patel. And there's the microphone.
How much time and effort did you need to put in to make your helpful site Wikipedia possible?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, there's different ways to look at that. I mean, I spent a lot of time learning about the internet. In the early days, I wrote the software, or I wrote parts of the software. I'm not really a very good programmer, but I had to learn enough to get by. And then obviously it's been 13 years now, 13 and a half years. Actually, I'm sure, is there anybody in this room who was born before, I'm sorry, you're mostly older than Wikipedia, so who in here was born after January 15th, 2001?
Oh.
Yeah. So a few. So this class, this group right now, all of you, so and even the oldest among you, you were probably only three years old or so when Wikipedia was started. So you're the first generation that has grown up with Wikipedia as being, it's always been a part of your life. Since you were born, practically, it was there. Since you learned to read, it was there. Yeah.
Can I ask you a difficult question?
Yeah.
A lot of schools are really worried about Wikipedia, or have been worried about Wikipedia, that Wikipedia is mainly used by people who are too lazy to do their own homework. Is that
not in this room, I'm sure. But
what would you say to teachers about Wikipedia?
Yeah, well, so there's a couple things that I would say to teachers and students. So it used to be, you know, I was on a radio program once with a college professor, and she said, oh, I tell my students, don't even look at Wikipedia. And I said, you might as well tell kids, don't listen to pop music, you know. 100% of all kids are using Wikipedia. From your age and up, everyone uses Wikipedia for their homework. The real thing we should be teaching is not should we use Wikipedia or not, but how to use it. What are the drawbacks? What are the strengths? So there's things like, you know, when Wikipedia says the neutrality of this article has been disputed, or the following section doesn't cite any sources, well, you should take that seriously. You know, the Wikipedia community is telling you, hey, we're not sure here. Other things you should do is go to the discussion page and see what are the things that the Wikipedians are having trouble figuring out. They're saying, oh, look, the different sources say different things. Oh, what should it say? How do we get it straightened out? That can be very informative. And then the last thing is, of course, don't cut and paste from Wikipedia, because 100% of all teachers also read Wikipedia, so they'll definitely notice that you just cut and pasted your homework from Wikipedia. And then the other thing for teachers is to say, ask the students questions that they can't get the answers from Wikipedia. You know, go a little deeper.
Go a little deeper, good advice. In a moment we're going to go to one of the other schools, but I'm going to get another question from Ark Elvin. Abdulwali Ali? And here he is.
What do you think is the next big thing on the internet?
The next big thing on the internet.
Next thing. If I knew what the next big thing on the internet is, I'd go do it right now. That's what I always say. I actually don't know. I mean, it's really funny how sometimes I name trends correctly and sometimes I don't. And so I think the biggest area to look for interesting things, particularly for if you're thinking of being an entrepreneur or trying to do something yourself, is definitely the world of apps, because you know there got to be a period in computer software when your major successful programs would be something like Excel, which one person can't write Excel, or not 2 or 3 people in a group can't write Excel, but 2 or 3 people in a group. What was it? Instagram was 12 people, 13 people, and they sold to Facebook for $1 billion.
I met a 12-year-old kid last week who's got his own game called Space Pants, and he made it all.
Excellent.
He made it all himself, an app.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Yeah. And so, in the app world, there's still like bite-sized chunks of things that you can do. Very straightforward apps, a game, a discussion app, a way of sharing pictures, or something like this. There's still huge opportunities for growth there. And I don't know what's going to be invented next.
Let's ask him. Abdulwali Ali, can we have the microphone back to you? Let's ask you, what do you think is going to be the next big thing on the internet?
Not sure. Like video gaming and the internet is going to be the next big thing. I think so.
Video gaming?
Yeah, like games on the
internet.
internet.
No, that's really interesting. I was at a big show the other day, and watching people play live video gaming is a huge thing.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, there's this whole trend of people watching other people play games online, which if you don't do it, sounds completely bonkers, but it's like a fan sport. You know, people
Yeah.
like to watch. Like,
I mean, people
the
watch
real
football.
greats
Why
doing
shouldn't
it.
they watch video
Yeah,
games?
yeah, exactly.
Let's see if we can go over to one of our sort of partner schools. Honiton Community College in Devon. Are you there? It looks like you are there.
Hello, Devon.
Can we have some questions from you?
Yeah, can you hear us?
We can hear you.
Oh, fabulous. I think we've got a question. Matt has a question.
So Wikipedia was one of the first collaboration websites. If, however, you made it just a year ago, do you think it would reach the scale and popularity of the current Wikipedia? Or do you even think it would get off the ground?
If I started just a year ago.
Yeah, so that if you didn't hear that, the question was, if Jimmy had started it just a year ago, would it have got off the ground?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very interesting question, and I don't. It's very hard to answer that kind of historical question. But I think yes, it would. I mean, I think it's actually become more common for people to understand the idea of working together online and people collaborating. Certainly, the software would be a lot easier to use because one of the reasons it's hard to use is we have to support all our power users from the past while trying to modernize at the same time. We'd probably start with a more of a word processing editor to start with. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, I think that the need was there. Of course, here's the reason it's hard to answer. If we just imagine the internet and just cut out Wikipedia, it's not there, and imagine everything else went along in the same way, and then suddenly everybody woke up one day and said, gosh, we don't even have an encyclopedia online. What are we going to do? That's probably not true. If I hadn't started Wikipedia, somebody would have done something different. Maybe the traditional encyclopedias would have moved a little faster to be bigger and so on. I don't really know what would have happened.
Next question from Honiton.
We've got Jamie going to ask a question.
Hi. Currently, at the moment, many people are untrusting of the accuracy of Wikipedia, such as what you've mentioned about homework and stuff, seeing as anyone can edit it. Do you have any views on changing that design aspect and what it can be improved on making the information more reliable?
Sure, great, yeah. So, when we think about the accuracy of Wikipedia, the model has a lot of strengths and a lot of weaknesses, and a lot of the cures people imagine, we know from our own empirical evidence wouldn't actually be the right cure. So one of the things people think you would do is start shutting down editing and only let experts edit. Well, what we know is that the more people who look at something, the more people who review it, then the more errors tend to be caught and the more solutions. But we also know that people come and vandalize and they do naughty things, but those are usually pretty easy to catch. You know, somebody comes and changes a page to all curse words, that normally gets reverted within seconds because we have actually robots who detect that sort of thing and do it. So
you employ robots?
We don't employ them. They're volunteer robots. No, people in the community have written bots that monitor pages for curse words and things like that and quickly revert them if it's not appropriate. But I would say that the biggest ways to improve the quality are things like making the editing process easier so people who have expertise but who aren't good at wiki markup language can participate. Better monitoring tools for the community so they can spot trouble areas more quickly. One of my favorite things that we do, which I think we're going to want to empower more of, is what we call a wiki project. So we'll have like wiki project bridges is one of my favorite. So this is a group of people who are into bridges, into the architecture and the history of bridges, and they go through all the articles about the bridges and they list them and they say, oh, which ones are good, which ones aren't as good. They make to-do lists for themselves. Oh, well, we've got all of these bridges in Africa which we've hardly even touched. We need to sort of find some research materials and go and write about those. Those kinds of projects are really, really helpful in terms of filling out the content and making sure that everything is high quality. But because one of the wrong ideas people have about Wikipedia is that it's 10 million people at once it somehow becomes an encyclopedia, but it's really more about those small groups coming together and saying, oh, hey, like Wiki Project, what's it called, mollusks and snails. There's a snail lady. She's a retired biology professor, and she looks over the snails in Wikipedia and has graduate students who work with her and so forth, and they look after that area. And that's been really key to increase.
But how do you cope with things where people just disagree on what the truth is, like climate change, for example?
Yeah, well, so one of the things we do, a couple of things. One, we're always looking for reliable sources. So we really want high-quality newspapers, magazines, academic journals. I haven't checked recently, but in terms of news websites, traditionally, by far, the #1 most linked news website is our very own BBC. Yay, BBC.
That's good. That's good.
That's very good. Because actually the BBC approach, trying to be neutral, trying to be high quality is something that works well with us. But then also, one of the things we do is we call it going meta, step out a level. Instead of trying to tell you the answer on some controversial issue, we try to tell you what the competing sides have said. So, if we're talking about something like Israel-Palestine and let's say some particular conflict, some particular event that happened, where you have a very different narrative from, say, some years ago. So we'll say, well, Yasser Arafat said this, and Ariel Sharon responded that, and various other sources say this and that. We try to give you the whole shape of the debate so that then you're prepared to dig deeper and make up your own mind rather than just trying to tell you one side's version.
I think we've got time for one more question from Honiton before we move on.
A question for you.
Hey, sometimes it feels like Wikipedia is almost unlimited in size. How many servers does it take to actually hold all of that information? How much does that actually cost? Especially when you first started out and weren't making that much money off of it.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So in terms of the total number of servers we have today, I actually don't know the number recently. And in fact, it's probably, it's a little hard to compare servers in the past to servers today because they've gotten so much faster and more powerful. So even though the number of servers hasn't been exploding, I don't know if it's even growing or shrinking, the total computing power is, of course, much higher just because the servers we're using today are so much more powerful than the ones from 5 years ago. In terms of the early days, well, I remember for a long time we were running on, well, for a while on one server, then we were running on 3 servers.
And were these in your back bedroom or what?
No, they were in a data facility that was in San Diego, California at the time. And I remember on a Christmas day, 2 of our 3 servers crashed, and I had sort of a very awful few days after Christmas trying to get the site back up and running and all that. What's interesting, I would say, for people who are thinking about going into starting a new website or starting a new concept today is it's so much easier than it used to be. I used to have to, you have to go and sign a contract for a lot of money to put your servers into a facility. You had to go and buy a server, which would cost $3,000 per server or whatever. Today, you can go to Amazon EC2 and just sign up with your credit card, and you can get a small server and have the ability to expand very quickly and very rapidly for just very tiny amount of money. Really, you can get a very small server for, I don't know, probably $5 a month or something like that, and then grow it as need be. So it's become a lot easier for people to say, oh, I've got this idea, I'm going to invest £100 a month and I'm going to work on it myself on the weekends. You can do that today because you just go on Amazon and say, give me a server, and it's provisioned for you. So you have to know how, of course.
So if you guys want to start your own Wikipedia, you don't need much money. You can take down Jimmy's organization, just like that. Thank you, Honiton. If I've got time, we'll come back to you. But let's see if we can talk to Parklands High School in Lancashire. Parklands High School, are you there? We're just switching the feed. Hello, Parklands. Give us a wave. Hi. And have you got questions for us?
Yeah, we've got some. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
We've got a question from Justine.
If you could go back to when you were still developing Wikipedia, would you change anything?
Good question. Would you change anything?
No, I probably wouldn't, because I would be just as dumb then as I am now. And it's really hard to say what would you do differently, because everything that we did for some reason at the time. It's not to say we never made any mistakes, but in terms of the fundamentals, it's kind of hard to argue with the result. It's very successful. So any idea you might have for what you might have done differently, would have had other ramifications and other complications.
Were there not crises? Were there big mistakes in the early days?
I mean, there would definitely be some things, definitely lessons learned, but things like, I remember when it used to be for quite some time, I would trying to manage the money and so forth, and then I would go out and sort of reluctantly go and buy a few more servers, and then suddenly the traffic would shoot up because it turned out the site was a little bit slow, not particularly noticeably slow, but it turns out that online, if a site's even a little bit slow, people tend to get bored and go do something else. And so the traffic spiked every time we bought servers for a while, which taught me, gee, buy the servers earlier, because even if you're not noticing the site slower, it probably is a little bit slower than it should be. So little things like that, but in terms of major fundamentals, yeah, I mean, certain things, we had sort of big fights in our board. We had too small of a board. We needed a bigger board to balance things out, just things like that. But in terms of the fundamentals, I wouldn't change, the basics of anything, really.
You regret nothing. Next question, please.
What do you think the benefits of technology are in education?
In education. You've been talking about this. You said something controversial in the Times Educational Supplement this week.
Yeah, I accidentally said something controversial. So, I think there's huge benefits to technology in education, and I was asked a question about the new push to teach computing throughout school, and I said something like, I don't know how many years it's...
From 5. People from 5 now, everyone has to start learning programming.
Right, exactly. From 5 learning programming, and to do it for many, many years. And I just said, I'm not sure everybody needs to become a master programmer. And so while I support that we should have very strong computer literacy skills, I mean, certainly a lot of the older programs where all kids were taught is, how to use Microsoft Word and things like that, it's just not that interesting. Frankly, you can teach yourself. In a broader sense, I think everybody should have some familiarity with computer programming so that you understand how the technology works, at least in the basic level. And then the opportunity should be there for anyone who wants to go deeper. It should be treated as a fully, a very useful subject in life and a possible skill. And we want to have there's little things like, so you think, well, I'm going to go into business, I'm going to be an office job. Turns out you might need to do an Excel spreadsheet, but you might also need to write a macro to do something, And if you've got the background, you can quickly go and learn what you need to do there. If you've never
I've got an idea.
Had a try.
Let's have a little live poll at our 3 schools. What I want to know is, out of all of you here, how many of you know how to or have done any computer programming or coding? Put your hands up. First, Ark.
Yeah.
How many of you have done any computer programming? Just a few. Just
20%,
a few.
max. 20%.
Oh, it's going up a little bit.
Some of them didn't want to admit it.
Okay. Honiton. Can we have a shot of Honiton? Quite a lot of you there.
I think it's computer science class, isn't it?
And now let's go back to Parklands High School. You're a pretty geeky lot in Parklands too. Okay,
I think those
Parklands.
are both computer science classes.
Parklands, let's come back to you for your next question.
Lucas, do you want to go next?
Yeah. So you've talked about how anyone can edit, and do you think it's fair that you get blamed for a lot of the mistakes people have when they're looking at the information? And how do you deal with this from a business point of view?
Well, do you get blamed? I don't like my Wikipedia entry, and it's your fault.
I get a lot of emails. I remember once somebody emailed me talking about a minor league baseball player in Kansas, in the U.S., from the 1940s, and they said, "Oh, you've got, his career all wrong." And I nearly wrote back and say, "I'm really sorry. I was tired the night I wrote that," but because I didn't write it all myself. No, I'm a very fast typist, I will say, but I didn't write it all. I think here's the way I look at it. When there's an error in Wikipedia and we get blamed for it, I think that can be legitimate. If it's some breakdown in our systems, if we didn't really set things up in the right way, if it's a persistent error that went on for a long time, feels heavy to us. Like we don't want anything to be wrong, particularly not for an extended period of time. At the same time, there is a sort of a bit of a gotcha. I actually think the media has moved on from this from a few years ago. People have kind of gotten used to Wikipedia and the idea of it. It used to be a lot more stories. I remember when the actress Anna Nicole Smith died. And she was sort of this flamboyant character, and she died. And some terrible person, when she died, went to her entry and wrote something nasty about her. I mean, deleted the whole entry and just wrote something nasty, which was reverted within a minute. It was gone within a minute. And I had all these phone calls from the media saying, "Oh, does this show failure in the Wikipedia system?" And I said, actually shows a failure in the media if Anna Nicole Smith dies and I get 8 phone calls. I mean, she's not that. There's actual news out there, by the way.
It is about, it's Wikipedia entries about real living people that do cause the most pain.
That's right.
And to those people themselves, they're not allowed to edit them, are they?
Well, we discourage it. We don't ban it outright, because if there's something really bad, it should just be fixed. And the main reason we discourage is if you've got an entry about yourself in Wikipedia and you get caught editing it, then the Daily Mail's going to have a field day with you, and that's really not fair. Instead, you should email us and let us.
What do you think of your own Wikipedia entry?
It's funny. It's a funny thing because it reflects the way the media sees me. And the way the media sees me tends to feed on itself and has certain things that are accurate and inaccurate. And so it's kind of weird. It's gotten better over the years, but it was sort of strange for a long time because it would list some interests or hobbies of mine that people found out sort of online, and other interests or hobbies weren't mentioned at all. And it was kind of like this really weird picture of me as a person. And so then you sort of learn over time, if you're in the public eye, you actually end up saying, well, I guess I have to share a little bit about what I do with my life because people are interested, and otherwise they're just going to make it up, in some random way. So, but it's all right. It reflects what's out there. So.
Let's go back to Parklands High School. Next question, please.
Oh, my mother told me, actually. My
What
mother
would
just...
you say has advanced the most in modern technology?
Can you repeat that question? We didn't get it.
What would you say has advanced the most in recent technology?
That has what the most?
Advanced. What's been the biggest advance?
I think I would say the biggest advance in recent years, in the parts of technology that I deal with, has to be the smartphone. The fact that if you've got a relatively new iPhone or an Android phone or even an older one, smaller. I mean, anybody these days can get an Android phone. For very inexpensive. The cheapest one I've seen so far is in Africa is for sale for about $31, an Android phone. And so in your pocket, you've got this incredible device with access to everything in the world. That's been a huge step forward that I think is going to impact the world in all kinds of interesting ways.
Let's have another of our instant polls. How many people here have got a smartphone?
So Android or iPhone?
Or even Windows.
Windows. I forgot about that.
Okay, just about everybody here.
Just about everybody.
Let's go to Honiton. Honiton, who's got a smartphone? Just about everybody there. And back to Parklands. Yeah. And a few years ago, that would not have been the case.
Rory, I have a video, if we've got time to show it, that's relevant to this topic.
It's there and ready to go?
They're ready, I think. They've got it. Can somebody?
Can I just check?
They think the videos are... So I'll give you a little background. So one of the programs that we have at Wikipedia, we call Wikipedia Zero. And the idea is we're going out into the developing world and we're working with mobile carriers to encourage them to offer access to Wikipedia with zero data charges. So we've been doing this in different places because what we know is that even in some of the poorest countries, I mean, so here we are in the UK, quite a wealthy country. There's a whole bunch of teenagers.
Is this going to be it?
This is going to be it. So before we roll it, so you'll click to roll it. Before I'll give you a little bit more background. So we were doing this, these programs where we're getting carriers, and a group of teenagers in South Africa wanted us to do it there, and they started an online petition to ask their mobile carriers to do it. And so this is a little video about that.
Hi, this is a letter which me and my classmate wrote to access Wikipedia for free. It goes as follows.
Open letter to Cell C, MTN, Vodacom, and ATA.
We are learners in grade 12 at Sinenjong High School, Joslovo Park, Milnerton, Cape Town.
We recently heard that in some other African countries like Kenya and Uganda,
cell phone providers are offering their customers free access to Wikipedia. We think this is a wonderful idea and would really like to encourage you also to make the same offer here in South Africa.
Our school does not have a library. 90% of us have cell phones, but it is expensive for us to buy airtime.
So if we could get free access to Wikipedia,
it will make a huge difference to us.
Normally, when we do research, Wikipedia is one of the best sites.
And there is information on just about every topic.
Think of the boost that it will give us as students and to the whole education system of South Africa.
Our education system needs help, and having access to Wikipedia would make a very positive difference. Thank you.
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 Thank you. Thank you.
English. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, this is an open letter to the youth of South Africa and the student of Sinenjongo High School in Cape Town.
You recently shared a video asking South Africa's cellular networks to give their customers free access to Wikipedia.
We think this is a wonderful idea.
We know that many school children in this country don't have access to research material, which can make excelling at school so much more difficult.
That's why MTN is proud to be the first South African cellular network to make Wikipedia free.
Free Wikipedia means access to a wealth of knowledge on just about every topic.
Giving a boost not only to school children, but to a whole education system of South Africa.
We hope that by changing one small thing, we can change everything.
To the learners of Sinenjongo High School, you sparked the initiative. We'd like to thank you immensely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So it was great. So
we're running out of time. So
Yeah.
I'm briefly going to ask Jimmy, what is? I mean, that was a bit of a plug for Wikipedia in some ways, but what are your hopes for actually getting the rest of the world online? Because actually, that is the new big drive, isn't it? We're all very lucky. We've got access to information. There are lots of places where it's very difficult to get access.
Yeah. I mean, it's getting easier and easier. I mean, it's really spectacular. These inexpensive Android phones, tens of millions of people are coming online in places, I mean, for the first time. And you know, we're talking about people who, they don't have some old computer at home or anything like that.
They don't often have even electric power.
They don't have power, right? But they'll have a phone. And so that kind of access is growing very, very quickly. And for us, one of the things that's really important is to think about native languages. Because it's one thing, you know, if you're learning and you're learning in a second language, you'll always want to go back and read something in your native language as well. And so that's really important to us.
Well, we are running out of time. I just want to say thank you to the schools that have joined us. Both to let's have a quick look at Honiton Community College. Let's wave goodbye to them. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
You've been great. And also to Parklands High School in Lancashire. Thank you very much, Parklands. And we're here, of course, in Wembley at Ark Elvin School. I'd like to thank Jimmy Wales very much for his time and for his thoughts. I'd also like to thank Speakers for Schools, which is a fantastic organisation bringing speakers to all sorts of schools which have not had them in the past, and their partners Google UK, Founders Forum for Good, and the TES for making this event possible. And thank you to you for being a lovely and intelligent audience. Thank you very much.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, great. Fantastic.